it's an honor for me to introduce our next segment. The following 25 minutes will be a pre-recorded chat between Dr. Kleefstra and Julie Goff. We all know Dr. K, but for those who don't know Julie, she is a college student currently attending Dean College and was diagnosed with KS just 2 years ago. And recently for a class term paper, Julie was asked to use what she was learning about the brain and the central nervous system to write a neuro-autobiography. Julie's paper includes research around KS-related challenges, ADHD, regression, and autism. The process of researching and writing the paper gave Julie an opportunity to better understand herself as someone with KS, which is really incredible. And she is an inspiring young lady. I think you'll all enjoy hearing from Julie today. So we are going to roll the video, and then following the video, Dr. Kleefstra and Julie will be joining us live for a Q&A session. So if you have questions that come up throughout the course of watching the video, please feel free to drop them into the chat, and then I will moderate a discussion with Dr. K and Julie following the pre-recorded video. So without further ado, let's roll the video and enjoy.
So very nice to meet you again. We met before shortly, and very honored to have this conversation with you on screen. I guess you are in your dorm now at college?
Yes, I am.
Yes. So, and what did you do in the morning time?
Well, I had breakfast. I came back to my room and did some work for classes that start tomorrow.
You did that by yourself, or did you get any help this morning?
By myself.
Haha. And what classes do you start with tomorrow then?
Tomorrow I have my exercise physiology lab.
Oh, wow. Can you tell a little bit more on that? What should I imagine? How is that?
Well, because I took anatomy and physiology this in the 2020 to 2021 school year, I think a lot of the stuff I learned in anatomy and physiology would come back in handy.
Okay, so that's tomorrow, and are these classes then continuing through the week?
Then on Thursday I've got 3 classes. I've got my exercise physiology lecture, and then I have my exercise for special populations class. Then I have my applied professional communications class.
Wow. Sounds like a busy week.
Yes, no classes on Friday.
Ah, that's the resting day.
Yeah.
Are you returning to your parents on Friday or on Saturday, or do you?
No, I stay up there.
You stay up there. And will they visit you this weekend?
My dad is coming up on Sunday because I have to go to Boston Children's Hospital to be part of the study that Dr. Sid, whatever his last name is.
He has a very difficult last name. They always say Jitske. My first name is difficult, but Sid has a really difficult back name. Strativada or something.
Dr.
Yeah.
Sid.
Dr. Sid. Everybody knows Dr. Sid.
Because I have to go up to Boston Children's Hospital for a part of a study that I'm gonna be in with Dr. Sid.
Yeah.
My dad has to come up on Sunday, take me to the hospital with them.
Okay, so that sounds like a full program already this week. Is this the first week you now started after summer? Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, it was.
Yeah. Yes, I thought so. Yeah. Well, great to hear all that, and I think very much different from the year you had with all these corona issues. So how was then your daily life? What did you do?
Well, in COVID times, I had a lot of online classes.
Yeah.
Looking at what I did was I had my iPad for like being logged into class. Then I had my computer open to take notes with.
Yeah. So you needed your screens
Yes.
a lot, huh? Yeah, we all did. Well, but we learned to communicate much better by these online tools and find each other on a global level more easy. So that's the benefit. That's the benefit of it, huh? I guess. And then Julia, you have this special diagnosis. It's called After Me, when we studied that years ago and we found the gene. So that's the diagnosis you have, but can you tell when you did receive the diagnosis, and what did you and your parents learn from it?
Well, we discovered it like 3 years ago. And we discovered that it was a mutation of the EHMT1 gene, which I was thankful to hear. But prior to being diagnosed with that, I also was diagnosed with several other challenges. Do you want me to go on and explain those?
Yes, please. Tell us about it if you like.
Well, when I was little, I was diagnosed with hypertonia, which is low muscle tone, and it affects me in different ways. For one, I have convergence insufficiency, which means that my eyes don't work together as other people's eyes do. And also my skeletal muscles are generally weaker, which means I'm not as strong as other people, and I have to work to build my endurance. I was also diagnosed with childhood apraxia of speech. I researched that as part of my neuroautobiography term paper. And in that class and through my research, I discovered how the brain is like a big city with lots of country roads and some highways, and that signals travel really well on highways in our brain, and they don't travel that well on the little country roads in our brain. And in early development, a lot of those little nerve country roads get eliminated and are replaced by nerve highways as we grow. And then brings back to the fact that with my speech apraxia, my speech highways in my brain didn't develop as well. So my brain had to rely on a lot of little country roads to get the thoughts from my head to my mouth. And since the thoughts are on country roads, they get lost sometimes. And the apraxia also means that it's harder for me to send all the right messages to my speaking muscles to make all the sounds I need to make as quick and clearly as I need to make them. I was also diagnosed with pervasive developmental delays, but it was never really clear what that meant.
That's really a lot, huh?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, and we all can imagine that all these pieces and problems or challenges, as you mentioned, belong to the same disorder, and that's this Kleefstra syndrome, and this very small gene mutation with is the one to blame, and that's the one who causes the variety of difficulties. And I very much like your comparison with in the brain, because we cannot look directly in the brain, but we can imagine that, yeah, driving on a highway very fast is different from getting all these side roads and get sometimes even lost. So that's I think a really nice comparison that that can help us to, well, to understand at some level what is happening in the brain when there is signaling, and when we ask a question and we wait for a reply, that we should take a little bit longer time because it gets all these, well, crossroads before coming to the end point. So that's really yeah, a very handy comparison, I think. And you told about the apraxia of speech. Can you tell a little bit more on that? What is apraxia of speech, and how was that in you? Was it suddenly, or did it take all the time? Was it already there at young childhood? Can you tell a little bit more on that?
Well, I know that what has been more gradual. I can't remember much from like when I was young, because that was such a long time ago. But I do know that when I was 2 to 4 years old, I had a lot of intensive speech therapy. And in fact, my parents have videos of me doing speech therapy when I was little at our apartment. And I'm glad that I got my speech therapy early, because the speech part of my brain was still developing. However, when I started going to school, most of my speech therapy focused on like social skills and the pragmatics of speech. And in fact, this past summer, I actually went back to some basic speech therapy to help the way it made certain sounds. And even this past summer, I also got a device to help strengthen my speech muscles.
Yeah. So how can you give an example? What kind of exercise or therapy you receive now?
Well, I don't receive speech therapy now because I'm back at college, but over the summer, I did get some speech therapy and practice like B sounds, P sounds, with like words and phrases and sentences. And I also have a breather, which I use to help strengthen my diaphragm.
Okay, yeah. And do you also need to use your mouth muscles very weirdly?
Yeah, yes, I do.
And do you benefit from it? Can you?
I really did.
Yeah, good. So that's really helpful to learn from you, huh? That's what's of your benefits. So yeah, we have discussed this different clinical diagnosis, as we say it. Did you get any other diagnosis when you get older, especially on the behavior or on developmental issues?
Yeah, I mean, like when I was 14, I had a full neuropsych exam, which found out that I have a few other challenges. One, I have ADHD. I take medicine to help me focus, and the medicine increases the level of norepinephrine between neurons to make the connections between neurons stronger. And two, I have dyslexia. My dyslexia is a comprehension type difficulty. I can read individual words just fine, but I have trouble comprehending when I put all the words together. And to help with my dyslexia, I use a text-to-speech software on my computer. I also have learned to visualize things as they are being read to me, and also pictures help a lot.
Yeah.
Also, I have social communication disorder, which is a little bit like autism. It's pretty mild though. I also have trouble understanding how people feel and reacting appropriately for a given situation. Sometimes I tornado when I get stressed out.
Yeah, that's can you give an example or what for the
Well,
tornado?
Well, when I tornado, I sort of feel like I have to get physical with the air. And sometimes I stomp very loudly, so my parents have to send me to my room to calm myself down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that helps you.
Yeah.
Yeah, good to experience what is helping there
Yeah.
and what does not help you, huh? And that might be different for the individuals with a syndrome or with a neurodevelopmental disorder in general.
Yeah.
Probably also has to do with all these roads in the brain.
I think so too.
Yeah. Well, we talked about your college and the lessons you have and the busy scheme already and this week. But I guess there's also additional issues that help you to guide you through the school or to the lessons. Can you tell us a little bit on that?
Well, my college has a special program for students with learning disabilities. There are 200 students in the program, and the most important thing is that it gives me friends. And also, some of the required classes are taught by teachers who are really good at working with people with learning disabilities. And there is a writing center where I can get help with papers. And one of my favorite professors helps there. I also have an academic coach who helps me stay organized and helps tutor me sometimes. Freshman year, I saw my coach 5 days a week. Now that I'm a junior/senior, I only see my coach once to twice a week. And I usually just take 3 to 4 classes a semester instead of 5 like a normal person would. And I also get a note taker during classes, which helps because I have a poor working memory. And if I had to listen to the teacher and write down notes, I wouldn't be able to focus on what is being taught. And I also work with the school's accessibility service department to get my books electronically so my computer can read them to me. I also get to take tests in the testing center. And the testing center has computers that reads the test questions to me so I can understand the questions better. And the testing center is also a distraction-free environment. And I also get extra time to take tests. My parents help me on weekends. They mostly help me with reading and understanding what is being taught in class. My mother helped a lot with anatomy and physiology. It was hard, but I could handle it. And my dad helps animate concepts to help me understand things that might be boring.
Wonderful. Yeah, so I hear a lot of assistance. And I think this is a great environment where you're studying, that they provide such help. Is that more general in other colleges? Do you aware, is this special to the place you are?
Well, I know there are other colleges for people with learning disabilities that my dad looked at, but we found this one to be the best.
Yeah, it's really great to hear that they are so supportive. Yeah, that's really important.
Yeah, and it's very good on the transportation aspect.
Yeah, yeah, great. And so you also made friends over there?
Yes, mainly because I'm part of 2 clubs, Best Buddies and Not Your Forte. In fact, I'm the secretary treasurer of both of those clubs. And Best Buddies is like, the umbrella is like Best Buddies International. And we're just the Dean of College chapter of Best Buddies, and Best Buddies does activities with people in the community who have developmental, intellectual, and physical disabilities. And during COVID, fortunately, we found a way to connect virtually and did things like virtual field trips to a zoo, indoor aquariums, bingo, and just chatted and had fun. And Not Your Forte is an all-inclusive a cappella group, and we rehearse together and put on a concert twice a year.
Yeah, I can imagine how a virtual zoo, visit to the zoo.
Yes, because the San Diego Zoo in San Diego, California, has like live webcams.
Okay.
Then the president of the club was able to get an account and get access to it.
Yeah, so that's then also the things that we have learned, I guess, in the
Yes.
COVID time. That's feasible. Yeah, great to hear. Yeah, so there's a lot of history already. You told us, and what's up for you in the coming, well, let's say 5 years? What are your goals in
Well,
school or private life?
well, I think I'm like a lot of other people my age. I want to graduate from college. I want to get a good paying job that gives me something fun to do where I'm helping more disabled people. I want to get an apartment with friends and live independently. And I also want to live near a bus line because I don't drive a car, but I'm good with public transportation.
That's a good to already take care for. Yeah, to keep that in mind. Then you're flexible.
Yeah.
Yeah. So is it possible that you could provide any advice, for example, on better communication to connect with, as parents or as professionals, with children with KS? What could you comment on based on your experience?
Well, I would say to speak with your child or children in a kind voice. And also give your children time to get their thoughts out because they might know more than they're actually able to say.
Yeah, and I think that we also already learned a little from your insight in the brain function that you gave us. Yeah, so that's the translatable consequence of it. And do you have any more advices or general advice or anything you would like to comment on?
Yeah, I think it's important to be patient, caring, and to praise them for what they can do, and to maintain a strong relationship with your child who has KS.
Well, I think that's the best you can advise. Thank you, Tilly, for that. I wonder, maybe you also have questions you would like to address to me today?
Yes, I do. What have been some of the recent important findings about KS?
Sorry, what? I missed the first.
What have been some of the recent important findings about KS?
What we found recently?
Yeah.
I think studies are not going so fast as we would like because, well, one, it's a rare disorder, so there's not so many individuals known at a worldwide level, but even at a more local level, where it's your own clinic and the patients that visit the clinic. So, but I think our studies now are more aimed at, of course, learning from the longitudinal course, so the course in time, because younger children, they have other issues to take care for them in the puberty ages or in the young adult ages. So that's where we really put a lot of energy to learn the longitudinal, so the natural history course, and visit similar and study similar individuals through time and collect data as much as possible, but also as relevant as possible. You can collect all the things you want, of course, and it's not all relevant. And I think that's very important to study. And also, well, now thankfully also the Boston team is putting more focus on the syndrome, and you already told me you visit the team this week, so that's important to learn from it, because every individual is, even if you have the same syndrome, is different, but we need to learn the entire spectrum and what is relevant for the individual on the individual level. But we can only learn from that by having large data sets, larger data sets than we used to.
Good.
So let's hope for big achievements that can help us all in the coming periods. Other questions?
When someone enters regression, how long does it take for someone to get out of it?
Oh, that's a very relevant, important question, but very difficult to answer. Partly for the same reason I just mentioned. So we really need to learn the trajectory, and that's not going from one day on the other, to have that fully covered and full awareness of it. Once individuals experience regression, that might be tackled in a very short term, and also recovering quite well. But there are also individuals who really keep having difficulties with their functioning, and they are not treated so easily. So that's very variable. So it can be in a few weeks, and it can be during longer or much longer, depending on whatever reason. We're not completely sure about it still at this stage. And there's also lots of individuals who do very well. They don't experience a loss of functioning. So that's a very difficult question to answer just in general.
Do you know other adults who have KS?
Yes, I do. I know a few, of course, in the Netherlands, who also visited our clinic, but also abroad. There's quite some that have had contact once or several times by email, or also by video conferencing, and also there's quite a variability in the problems, but some do really well. I also know a woman in the Netherlands who got her driver's license, so she is able to drive the car. So you just mentioned you will take the bus preferably.
Yeah.
But she can drive the car, and she does have the syndrome. So that's quite a variability.
And when was Kleefstra syndrome discovered?
Oh, that was discovered in the beginning of this century. So that already sounds as old ages. It's the period when we did not yet have what we call broad genomic testing. So we did not have exome sequencing. I'm not sure if you know how the mutation was identified in your DNA. Was it by exome sequencing or genome sequencing? Do you know?
I don't know. It was one of those two.
Yeah, probably. In most individuals nowadays, it's identified by what we call broad sequencing. So then you sequence many, or if not all, the genes in one individual. But in the time we found this EHMT1 gene, there was no genome or exome sequencing, and there wasn't even microarray. So that's the technique that's used to detect very small chromosomal changes. That was not even there on the market. So we used very old-fashioned techniques to derive to the EHMT1 gene. It will cost half a day to explain the techniques and how we did, but it was in around 2004 that 2005 that we identified the gene. And so that's over 15 years ago now. But in the beginning, the only individuals identified with EHMT1 mutations, they were the ones that were recognized by the doctor based on clinical symptoms. So, and then we were the only laboratory worldwide to be able to screen EHMT1 for mutations. So then DNA samples were sent to our lab, and we sequenced the EHMT1 gene to find a possible mutation. So it was only done if there was a clinical suspicion of the syndrome in the individual, and the doctor that has seen or saw the patient, he or she needed to recognize based on clinical symptoms. So the first, let's say 10 years, there was very little increase in diagnostic yields. Only when the microarray was introduced, so the small chromosomal defects, then the number of diagnoses raised. But the EHMT1 mutations, that has only been achieved the increase after introduction of exome or genome sequencing. So that's around 10 years ago now. So there's an explosion, if we can use that word, an explosion on novel diagnosis in the past 10 years. And the first 5 to 10 years after the discovery of EHMT1, there was not so much an increase. So that's the history of the genetic finding of the gene.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
No.
Well, I think we discussed quite some interesting issues, and you were great in telling us about your life with the syndrome and how you manage, and even got these grades in college and studying. So that's really impressive to learn from you. Thanks so much for that.